All right, look, most entrepreneurs are playing the game of business all wrong. They're obsessed with revenue numbers, celebrating big months, and posting screenshots of their contracted revenue. But here's the brutal truth. Revenue doesn't pay the bills. Profit does. Business isn't about how much money you make, it's about how much money you actually keep. And that's what makes business a game where we can just manipulate some of the variables and see how that adjusts profit. Profit is the score on a scoreboard of the game. And I'm telling you this because I learned it the hard way. And once I started focusing on profit over vanity metrics of revenue, I had my first 100K profit month this year. Not revenue, but actual money, right? Left over after business expenses that I get to keep, that I get to invest in my future, in my family, all those things. And I'm gonna share with you guys today the only 3 numbers you really need to determine if you're winning or losing in this game of business. And to go with this, I'm gonna give you 2 resources that'll be linked in the description below. We'll go over them in depth in this training so you can use them to master the game of business so you can make more money and keep the actual money that you make. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so I'm on my iPad over here. Right? So let's just talk about this, right? The game of business, as I already said, is all about making profit, okay? Profit is what you keep, okay? For those who are new to business, let's make sure we're clear on what these terms mean, okay? Revenue is how much you make. This is top line, how much you make. So if you sell something for $1,000 and you sell 10 of them, let's just say this is $10,000. Right? You make $10,000. Okay. Then you have expenses. All right. Expenses are going to be what you spend in your business and your business only. Let's say to make $10,000, you spend, $2,000 on marketing. Okay. And then lastly, profit is how much you keep. Okay. Essentially how much is left over after the expenses. Okay. In this scenario, this would be $8,000 of profit left over. Okay. So these are the 3 basic numbers every business has. Okay. To simplify business, what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize this profit and minimize the expenses while keeping quality high, right? Because if we don't keep quality high, this is not going to work long term and we can't scale this up. But understanding that this is the game of business is profit, right? Plus results in every business. Results, or you could use the word satisfaction, right? Whether you're selling a product online, whether you're selling a service, it doesn't really matter. You want good results, right? This is going to lead to more word of mouth referrals. It's going to lead to more repeat customers, right? Repeat. You don't have to just to market more stuff. Results also is going to be really just like help you build a brand, right? Which kind of brand word of mouth, which will help you expand even further and not have to rely so much on spending more money on marketing. Okay. And then profit again is really going to help you for a couple things, but one is sanity. Can't tell you how many business owners that I've consulted and worked with who have razor thin or no margins because they're investing all back into the business and they're nervous about their being able to pay the bills. And it all comes down to the sanity, right? Sanity, even the word I like to say peace, right? And then honestly, purpose, right? I think all 3 of these things actually both profit and results align will come into this purpose. But we need this, right? And this also gives us a little bit of like cushion, right? Cushion to reinvest or even more important is, weather the storm. Right? Weather the storm. Business is always going to have its ups and downs, right? This is normal. And if you don't expect it and you think everything's going to be like this, you're in for a treat, right? But we need to be able to weather the storm. And the only way we're going to do that is by having a little cushion from the profit we make in good months. Okay. So let's keep going, right? Now I'm going to make business super simple. I'm using very simple terms here. We're not going to go anything very advanced here, but we got to be on the same page here, right? So the whole goal as a business owner is to make more profit. Okay. And in its general sense, we need to have people pay us more than it costs us to get a client and service that client. Okay. So let's say that somebody pays us $1,000, right? This is how much they pay, right? So this would be revenue, right? I'm just going to put rev, right? $1,000. Let's say that we spend that month $200 to get this client. Okay. And then we're going to minus $200 for marketing. Okay. And then we're going to minus another $200 to service the client. Okay. Service, you could also put fulfillment, right? I'm just going to put full, right? So then that leaves us with, 1,000 minus 200 is going to be $600 in terms of profit of how we're calculating it here. That's not bad at all, right? So this is what you have to do. For us as the business owners, we have to understand how much we can pay to get a client and how much it costs us to service a client and how much is left over. Because there's going to be other expenses that are going to be thrown into this, right? We've got other operating expenses like software, like legal teams, like team members, like all the other things. And, as you're starting a business, like, let's just put some general rules here, right? As you're starting a business, you're doing most of the marketing, you're doing most of the fulfillment, especially for service-based business, etc. We're looking for like 50 to 60% margins when you're starting because you're doing everything. And then as you grow, this is going to drop. Right? So starting, we'll just put established, mainly for service-based businesses here, okay? Starting, this is, you're going to be doing really well, especially if it's like online coaching, something like that. I mean, you could be even at like 80% margins, okay? I'm doing these very loosely, like margins, right? Then established business owners, we're looking at like anywhere from 20 to 40% margins, okay? And understanding these is the basis of all business. This is the game, is how do I stay within these margins? And most people don't talk about this when they get started. They're just thinking about, how can I make 10K a month? Or, when you're at in the masterminds I'm a part of, they're like, how can I get to 100K a month? Some are like, how can I get to 500K, a month? But this is all thinking wrong, because what if you could improve your margin from 20%, to 40% with the same number of clients? Okay. This is less stress. Okay. This is less liability, right? And then honestly, you'll have more purpose and peace because you have a smaller team plus more, my favorite word, efficiency. Okay. And people don't think about this, but like, this is what I want. I want a lean plus mean team. Okay. Lean, mean team with great efficiency. Okay. For me, that's 30% plus margins. Okay. I could make this thing extremely more efficient, but I would do a lot more service delivery. So I feel really good with this. Okay. So for us to do this, we then have to understand our numbers. Okay. We have to understand, and we're going to cover this first. I'm going to cover both. They'll be linked below. One's going to be for return on ad spend, understanding how much it costs to get a client, right? How much to get a client, right? And a lot of people don't know what this is. Here's the thing. Like if you ever watch any Shark Tank video ever, right? They're going to ask that. They're going to say, hey, what's your CAC, right? CAC it stands for customer acquisition cost. If I misspell anything, that's okay. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, not good with grammar. Okay. CAC, what is your customer acquisition cost? Because if I know this, let's say that you have $1,000 offer. Okay. Just using that blank number. If you have $1,000 offer, 1K, and it costs you $200 to get a client, that gives you a 5x ROAS, right? If I can spend $200 to get $1,000 client, that's a 5x ROAS. So I put $1 in, I get 5 out. Man, I'm going to do that all day, assuming that my fulfillment costs, right? Fulfillment costs are in check, And for me, I like having these under 20%. So it's kind of why I did the $200 above, right? It cost me $200 to get the client and then $200 to service the client. That gives me 60% of margin here, not including other operational expenses, etc. But that's a super healthy area, right? Like super healthy. Now, if we can improve, we have these two main variables. Here's the game, right? The game of business is this, right? Is to decrease CAC and decrease our service delivery costs, service/product, or you could do fulfillment. I misspelled it maybe before, so I just wrote a different word here. Okay. So decrease CAC, decrease service product while improving product. Okay. Product results and satisfaction. And if you can do these three things here, right? Now we have a high profit business, right? A profit generating business. And then when we have this profit, right, we can then do this thing called paying ourselves, right? Pay ourselves. And then from here, we can invest, okay? Invest in our future. Too many people do not focus on this, right? There are whole books on this called Profit First, etc. I love that book. I think it's a great book for starters, but people just don't focus on this. They focus so much on the 10K, 100K, the million, right? That they lose sight of this, and they kind of treat it like a software business, right? Like Uber or Lyft or something like that, where they're like, oh, I'll just keep investing back into the business and this business will be worth something. And then I can start paying myself. I'm not going to play that game. Okay. Like I know there's people that do play that game and they play it well, but we're in an ever evolving, changing market, especially if you're an online service provider with AI and stuff like that. I'm not going to wait for profit in the future, because what if AI just wipes out everything? Okay, that's a little bit morbid, but honestly, it's like it's going to happen more and more. We're in the coaching consulting space, right? So we deal with this. People think that they can go to ChatGPT to get business advice versus working with an expert. And, for some of the things they can, right? I'm not going to say that, hey, we're going to be better. Like I think we have more experience, but ChatGPT is going to give you instantaneous responses. If you work with me, right? I've got a roster. My team has rosters. It might be a couple hours. It could be next day before we get a response. It could be by the time we have our next call. You can go to ChatGPT to ask that same question and get an answer. So coaching, consulting, service-based providers, if you're running someone's ads, if you're doing all these things for them that can eventually be automated, we're in a stage where, guys, stop waiting for profit, okay? Stop. Even if you're in the software space. I know some people do it, but look, there's new software that comes out every day. OpenAI is just going to replace your software. So I'm telling you now, if you guys want to play this right, it's focus on profit now. Focus on profit now, okay? Now, when I say now, like, it doesn't mean that if you're doing like 100K, a month, you should pay yourself like 50K a month, right? I mean, we want to have profit. Doesn't mean you need to pay yourself all of profit. Okay. But I just want to be clear here that like we want to be focusing on lean, mean efficiency. If I needed to cut everything, I still have a lot of profit in my pocket. Okay. So hope this helps. I just wanted to start here on the iPad. Let's switch back over to the computer and let's talk about ROAS, right? Because the three adjustments we have here really are going to be the customer acquisition cost and the fulfillment costs. So we're going to work on both of these, right? We're going to work on both of them and see what can we do to lower these, or what should we do to expect these so that we can have more profit. All right, so let's jump into the computer and get started over there. All right, so I've got this pulled up here. Now, this is going to be for online service-based providers, typically online coaches, consultants, course creators. That's the main demographic that we work with. So all of these numbers here, which will be linked below, are going to be for that demographic, all right? And these are all loose numbers, okay? So the only things you'll really need to adjust here, well, actually, you can adjust all of these, but again, these numbers in here are for online coaches, service-based providers, okay? So ad spend, how much can you spend on ads? And then what's the price of your offer, okay? Now, once you put those two things in here, these are gonna be for B2C coaches, consultants. Again, if you know your service industry, or if you wanna ask ChatGPT what you could put in there as well, you can do that, all right? But I'm gonna do this for B2C coaches, providers, service providers. So let's say you have a $2,000 coaching offer, right? Which is pretty standard. Best case scenario, this is cost per lead. Cost per lead would be like an opt-in. Cost per booked call would be someone who's applied for your offer. Show up rate would be show up rate for phone calls. And then close rate is of those that get on a call, how many of them sign up to work with you? So this is how we can adjust our customer acquisition cost, is if we can move, let's say we're doing terrible over here. How can I start to move my cost per lead to be more affordable? How can I get my cost per book call to be better? How can I get my show up rate to be better? How can I get my close rate to be better? All of these are like honestly the main four numbers here with customer acquisition that we can adjust to make sure that we have a lower customer acquisition cost as a whole, right? That gives us more profit. So best case scenario, if you're a B2C coach, say fitness coach, gut coach, gut health coach, something like that, we could get a cost per lead. Best case scenario, if you have an incredible opt-in for $5. Okay. Average for this one, I put $10. All right. We have some clients who are at $15. So again, you're going to have to put your numbers in here and know your industry inside and out. If you don't know that, you can use ChatGPT, or if you guys want support with this stuff, this is what we do inside of our coaching program. And as always, quick plug, link below to book a call with my team if you're interested in learning how we can help. Okay. Worst case, cost per lead being $20. Okay. Again, all of these are just manual numbers that you can enter in, and they will all dictate down here below what your return on ad spend would be if they were all in the best case, average case, worst case. Okay. Cost per book call. We anticipate about 10% of the leads who opt in to become a call, right? So that's kind of how we created this. It's 10%. If you're closer to 5%, okay, adjust it that way. All right. Best case cost per lead, $50. Average cost per lead is going to be about $100, or cost per book call, $100. And then worst case is cost per call is $200. Okay. Show up rate, worst case, 50%, average case, 60, best case, 70. Okay. This is if you have a good, strong application process. Close rate, best case of calls you have 40%. Average is going to be between 25, 30%. Worst case would be 10 or 20%. Again, play with these numbers. I'm going to give you the spreadsheet. Put your numbers in. Now, based off that, if you were doing everything in here that you put in as the best case scenario, best case, you get 1,000 leads off $2,000 in spend. That books you 100 calls, 70% show up, and you get 28 sales. That would mean you would turn a $5,000 investment into $56,000 with a 11.2 ROAS. Now that's a unicorn number, okay? That's unicorn, right? Does this happen? Yes. But again, this number is the best case. This is if the best cost per lead, best cost per call, best show up rate, best close rate. No, I guarantee if you do this, you're not going to have best in everything. You might have best cost per lead, worst cost for a book call, average show up rate, best close rate, right? So again, these are absolute best case, right? And then absolute worst case, okay? But this is important to do, especially if you're financial modeling how much money you need to make or how much money to spend on ads to even get clients in the first place, right? I've seen some people say, hey, I have a $2,000 offer. I can only spend $1,000, all right? Well, cool. Your worst case is gonna be a 2X. Your average case is gonna be a 4. And then, your best case is gonna be a 12, right? But you can manipulate some of these numbers. And again, this is just a brief outline. This is not a robust calculator. This does revolve on you putting the right numbers in both of these categories. Okay. So if I had that same offer price and everything else held the same, cost per lead is held the same, and I went from a $2,000 offer to $3,000, all of these numbers just boosted up a couple percentage, right? Which makes a big difference, right? When we're looking at profit. Again, profit is how much we keep, right? So if I adjust my offer price and all these hold the same, that's an extra $1,000 that I now have in my margin. And you've got to play all this stuff out, right? Now, when you're getting started, you don't have an idea, like that's where coaching consulting can help with this. And you kind of have to just test. Like your numbers here are not going to be the same for every person. If you're doing any B2B stuff, like I said here, I would 2 to 3X all of these. Okay. So for me, I pay about $30 to $50 for a lead. Okay. That's like average for me. If it's really good, it's going to be around $20. Okay. So mine's closer to 3 to 4X on this. I have a smaller addressable market, but because of that, I adjust my offer price point, right? Our core offer is closer to the $10,000 range because that gives me more margin. If I didn't have that and I was charging, $2,000, $3,000 for a high intensive program, I would have to deliver, kind of coming back to what we talked about earlier, my service would be crap because I don't have any margin to pay somebody to deliver a service really well and have a good customer experience. Again, the 3 numbers we talked about to influence profit are going to be customer acquisition cost, right? Cost of fulfillment. And then 3 is satisfaction. Are my clients getting the results I'm promising, or are they having a positive experience? Okay. Now I'm about to jump into the other sheet, but before I go off of this, just a thought here. For that third number of like, what are my client results? You should be polling them or asking them for feedback on a monthly basis. So right now it is the 3rd of June, right? So I want to jump into my program here. So you'll see we've got the monthly review and we post this in our community, and one of our KPIs for our team is like for Mallory, she's responsible for this, that we have 65 to 75% of our clients fill out this check-in form, right? Pick your name. How many clients do you have? How many clients did you sign? What are your closing costs? What was your contracted revenue? What was your collected, right? So we have a business coaching program, and down here as well, how would you rate the program? How would you rate your coach? Why? What are your targets? What else can we do? And anybody who rates this lower than a 9, we're going to reach out to and say, how can we make your experience better, right? Doesn't mean we can change the whole program to fit them, but it gives us more information. And then if there is something we can do for that person, we'll do it right then and there versus waiting until the end of their program and being like, hey, how was it? Do you want to sign up for more? And they're like, dude, I didn't have a good experience. Well, why didn't you say something sooner? Well, you never asked. So this should be part of your process. It's like every month, collect this data, get clear on it. Again, we have a business coaching program, so we ask a lot of stuff like this. If you're doing a health and fitness program, a lot of my clients do this weekly, a weekly check-in. Hey, here's your weekly check-in form. How did your week go? How are your workouts? How was this? And all that information to allow you to get the data you need. And you'll get more by asking more. Not everyone's going to submit it every week or every month. And that's where it's like, if you have built a bigger team, you can have somebody's one of their main KPIs is this. So Mallory, she's responsible for client fulfillment, and satisfaction is what percentage of people filled this out every month. And then what was the average for rating your coach and rating the program? And if these things trend downward, we need to make this program better. What is missing? Is it more AI? Is it more this? Is it more touch points? What is it? Right? And that's her job to figure that out, right? And the same thing for coach experience. If one coach is starting to drop down, we need to get on that coach and figure out what's going on. Hey, is it the clients that we're assigning to you? Are they too beginner? Do you have too many, right? Or are you just not fully checked in, right? And I can make better decisions based off of that. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. So ROAS, right? Reduce customer acquisition cost by improving the numbers here. right? And the more accurate you are here, the better numbers you'll get. Now, second thing, this is how we calculate our full profit. Okay, so I got this sheet from Sam Ovens in 2022 in his mastermind program before he partnered with Alex Ramosi and went all in on school. And this is a financial modeling sheet. I review mine on probably a weekly basis, if not every other week, because as the business grows, you're gonna need to hire new people, right? You're gonna need to adjust the amount of money you're spending on marketing, right? If you wanna hire a video editor, if you wanna get more software, you can put this in here and see, okay, if I add this service, right? Up here, it could be a product. Or if I get more renewals, or if I do this, how does that affect my take home? And the only way you'll know, again, this will be linked down below in the description. Both of these will be under one link. This will be the thing that allows you to know, can I do this? Yes or no? Is this a smart move? Yes or no? Real quick, let me kind of just go over this, right? Let's pretend, and again, this is simple numbers. Let's say you have two programs. You've got a 6-month program and you charge $2,000. Again, these are on the lower end numbers. So I would suggest you charge more. Okay. This is just for this demo. Okay. Let's say you have a 6-month program and it's $2,000. If you got 5 sales a month, that's $10,000 a month in new sales. Income for the full year, multiply that by 12, $120K. You also have a front end 3-month program. And let's say it's $1,000 and you sell 3 times more of those. All right. So you're getting 20 sales a month, right? In total. That's $15,000 a month from that offer. That's $180,000 total. Then once somebody finishes one of the core offers, which is around $300 a month is what it looks like. Then let's say you had a renewal offer and this was done monthly and it was $350 a month. How many people are on that offer on a continuous basis? Boom, that's going to give you this amount per month. Now, total all these things up. This is your income per month off of this offer, right? If you have any other income, you can throw it in here. Like for us, we get a couple $100 a month from YouTube. We get a couple $100 a month from school, a couple $100 a month, actually a couple $1,000 a month from Go High Level. So we have other like software recommendations we have people use, and we get some affiliate kickbacks for all of those recommendations. Okay. So add all those on there too. And then this is going to be your total revenue, right? We talked about this earlier on my iPad, right? Revenue minus expenses equals profit. How do we adjust profit? The big levers are going to be customer acquisition and fulfillment costs. Okay. So now that we've done this, right, we come down to this bottom category over here. Now, for us to figure out how much we should spend on ads, we can come back over to the ad calculator like we did before, get an idea of what is my customer acquisition cost going to be and how much should I spend on ads. General rule of thumb, if you guys aren't sure on this and you already have a business, I would spend about 20 to 30% of your top line revenue back into marketing. Okay. When I say marketing, that's everything from, paid ads plus, video editor, or any other person or avenues you're spending marketing on. If you're a local brick and mortar and you do, you rent booths at local events, that would also be part of marketing. 30% on the high end. If you're trying to grow, I think 30% is great. If you want to be conservative, you could even go to 10%. 10 to 30% of your top line back into marketing is very safe. I used to say 10%, and now in this day and age where we have AI that can improve the fulfillment process and the margin there, we can actually do more with less fulfillment. So we can increase our ad spend, right? Or marketing expenses because fulfillment can be more streamlined with AI. Okay. Probably a video for another day here. Okay. So if I put $2,000 into marketing, I had a $500 video editor. Let's say I had one appointment setter who's working the DMs and I pay them $1,500 a month at $3,200 in spend. I've got, how many clients do I have here? 20 clients here. And then I'm probably going to need, more. Like at this volume, I'm probably going to have let's do 5,000. I'm probably need a full-time assistant coach. And just also looking at these numbers, if I was turning $2,000 into $32,000, that would be a pretty crazy return on ad spend. Let's just pretend we got a 4X on ads. So 4X on ads, let's go, just simple math equals 32,000 divided by 4, 8,000 on ads, 8,000. Boom. This looks a little bit more realistic here. Okay. So I spent $8,000 on ads to make $32,000. I've got one assistant coach. I'm using Go High Level as my software for CRM. I've got Zoom. I've got Canva. I've got $100 in other software. I've got liability insurance. Every month I might buy, some nice camera gear or something to improve my content process. I've got $100 a month just to other things. And I've got a business coach. Right? If you don't have a business coach or a part of a mastermind, you should join one. I'm in at least one at a time just because I'm always trying to learn at what can I do to be better, right? So looking at all this, I spent $32,000. My expenses were $18,400. My profit is going to be $13,000 $600 with a 42.5% margin. Super healthy, again, for this size of business. We want to be between 40, 60% for kind of a newer business. So this looks super healthy. Taxes, I'm going to put those in this sheet just so I know what my real like take home is. Typically, it's going to be 30% of your profit, right? So 30% of this profit, I'm going to send $4,000 to Uncle Sam at some point, and my real take home from $32,000 a month is going to be just under $10,000 after taxes, okay? This is really important to understand because I can't tell you how many people are like, I want to make $10,000 a month. And I'm like, all right, you put 10,000 in here, you put all your expenses in here, you're going to be left with, $3,500 to $4,000. And you're going to be like, damn, I could make that working a 9 to 5. And I'm like, yeah. And guess what? It's going to be easier. It's going to be easier. It's going to be lower stress. Do you really want to do this? And I don't think people realize that if they want to make $10,000, they need, now in day and age, like a $25,000 to $30,000 a month business revenue to make $10,000 a month. And without doing these numbers, you would never know. So on the flip side, if you want to be making $1 million a year, which is one of my goals right now, I need this top number here for income for the year to be between 3 and 4 million. Okay. We're closer to like the 2 million-ish range now, 2.5. So I've got to get to 3 or 4 with the same expenses at 30% margin to get $1 million take home. Okay. And seeing that, I have to look at this. Like a big part of business, like I said, this is a game, is understanding the numbers, understanding the game you're playing. It's not just about, let me get more clients. I'm full. I don't have any more space. It's like, I've seen so many people who are full with clients, are full with their time. Their calendar is a mess because there's just so much stuff. And then when we actually say, hey, send me your P&L before our onboarding call, I'm like, dude, your business made $400,000 last year and you only took home 30, 40,000? Oh yeah, I reinvested it all into business coaching and all this stuff. I'm like, well, when are you going to make more money than your normal 9 to 5? They don't realize it. So I hope this, like, if anything, this video here, like, wakes something up inside of you to help you realize I've got to have a bigger business. I have to make more money and I have to know my numbers and I have to learn this stuff. And if I don't learn this stuff, I'm not going to hit my financial goals and I'm not going to actually have the lifestyle that I want to have or the impact I want to have. Now, there's nothing wrong. Like if you do want to be a solo coach, right? You want to make $10,000 a month, not do any marketing outside of social media, posting. You might have, 2, 3, maybe $500 in expenses. That's cool. That's cool. So you make 10,000, say Uncle Sam takes 25, 30% of that, right? So you are going to be left with $7,500 or let's just say 6 to 7K. And that's cool. That's all you want. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. I've got some bigger goals, right? I've got some bigger goals because I've done that and that's fun. But if you do know what the lifestyle is you want to create, you want to know what your average day looks like, you want to know how much you want to work, how little you want to work, you've got to map all this stuff out. All right. So again, hope this helps. All this is linked down below in the description. And if you guys want help growing your business, right? We help coaches, consultants, online coaches, consultants. I will have a link down below to book a call with my team. All right. We'll ask you some of these numbers. We're going to ask you what top line is, what bottom line is. We're going to ask you what your cost per client is. We're going to ask you some of these numbers. And if you don't know them, that's okay. But we need to help you learn them. Okay. Or you need to learn them, whether you work with us or not, okay? But if you are looking for help on really growing your business with systems, an understanding of how business actually works, I'll have a link down below to book a call with my team. And if you guys have any questions about this, you guys can hit me up on Instagram. And hope you guys enjoy this. Chat soon.